Today's guest is Forest Nash, a vegan fitness coach and physique competitor who was raised vegetarian since birth before transitioning fully to a plant-based diet in 2015. Transitioning to a vegan diet has allowed him to bring his fitness to the next level, change the lives of his clients as a personal trainer, and make his dream of competing on stage come true. Not only has he won his first 2 competitions, he also became a member of Team PlantBuilt, the largest organization of vegan athletes worldwide. He is also an ambassador for CleanMachine, and he has a certificate in plant-based nutrition from the world-renowned T.Colin Campbell Center for Nutritional Studies. Now, how has the vegan diet improved his performance? And what is his advice for other vegan fitness lovers? This and more you will hear in this interview. What's up, guys? We're here with Forest Nash. Super excited to have him on the show. And well, let's jump right into it. Glad to have you, Forest.
Thanks for having me on. Happy to be here.
Can you maybe give people a short overview of who is Forest Nash and what are you up to?
Sure, absolutely. So just a little bit about myself. I am a vegan, so fully plant-based personal trainer and online coach. So I work with clients both in person in a gym setting and then also across the world in an online format as well. And just helping to, one, sort of educate people about the health benefits of whole food plant-based nutrition, and then also incorporating exercise into that as well to help people achieve their fitness goals. And then I'm also a physique competitor, so I compete in natural bodybuilding in the men's physique category. And I use that also as kind of like a platform whereby, to help spread the vegan message and show people that you can still be strong and healthy and fit and have a nice physique, and you don't have to use animal products to do that. So that's sort of my mission, is to help spread the vegan message and also, help people sort of learn and understand some of this information, because it can be really life-changing from a health standpoint. And also obviously the environmental side of things, the animal welfare and all of that as well is tied into it. So that's my mission, and happy to be here and helping spread that message with you guys as well.
You actually have been vegetarian since birth, so you didn't eat meat for like 20 years and then you started becoming vegan, but you've been vegetarian. And a couple of years ago, you started to be vegan, right? So I'm really interested to hear more about that. Like, first of all, why did you grow up vegetarian, and how was it as a child also, compared to being around kids who eat meat or who are not vegetarians?
Sure, absolutely. No, that's a great question. So yeah, I was actually vegetarian for my whole entire life up until about 4 years ago. And so that's when I made the switch. I became fully vegan early in 2015, so just about 4 years ago now. And I was raised in a vegetarian household, so my parents are both vegetarian, my brother's vegetarian as well. And basically the reason for that was just kind of for ethical reasons. It was part of the spiritual practice that my parents follow. It was, part of that was not harming animals, basically. And so, if you can be healthy without eating meat, the thinking was, why would you? And so I basically was raised with that upbringing, and a lot of the people around me as well were kind of following a similar path. And so, it didn't strike me as that out of the ordinary. Obviously, as I got older and, was meeting more people and stuff like that, I learned that, most people do consume meat and animal products and stuff like that. But to be honest, it wasn't ever something that, I felt like I was really missing out on or that I really wanted to try. And, I was always happy and healthy with the foods that I was consuming. And so I feel very fortunate and very thankful to my parents for kind of giving me that background and that sort of head start, so to speak, on plant-based eating. And then when I did become vegan, it was about 4 years ago, and really it was just for health reasons, because the only animal products that I had in my diet up until that time was just dairy. And so, it was things like milk or cheese or, Greek yogurt, whey protein powder, things of that nature. And what I found was that just those particular products didn't seem to agree with me very well. Like, I would often feel bloated, or I'd have indigestion or different issues like that. And I just felt better when I wasn't consuming them. And so as I started kind of learning more and doing research about veganism and, coming across people who were actually, in the online space at that time, doing vegan bodybuilding and fitness and pursuing those types of interests that I was also, keenly interested in at that point in my life. And I realized, you actually don't need to have any animal products in your diet in order to do all this stuff that I want to do. And I was like, if these guys can do it, I'm going to give it a shot. And so I did. In the start of 2015, I basically made that transition. And it was a gradual thing. I didn't throw out all the dairy products overnight, but I kind of just, didn't buy any more. So I finished out the whey protein that I had and replaced it with a plant-based one. And same thing for the other, whatever animal products I might have been consuming. And what I found was that, making that transition, I just felt better physically. I was less congested. I felt like my digestion had improved, my energy level, and just the way I felt kind of in my body was better. And also, I'm of kind of the school of thought, if you're going to do something, why not do it 100%, right? So the idea of going 100% fully plant-based really appealed to me. And since having done that, I feel like it's been nothing but a benefit as far as my training, my performance and recovery have improved. And so I'm able to train more frequently, more intensely than I might have been able to otherwise. And so from kind of a physique standpoint, that has really been a benefit as well. And of course, as the process has gone on, over the past several years, I've learned a lot more about, the environmental side of things, and of course about animal welfare and kind of the ethical side of things as well. And it just has kind of further strengthened that conviction that I had at the start when making the switch. So, I wish I had done it sooner, but I'm thankful to have, had that background and been raised vegetarian. And now since I've been able to sort of pay it forward and share some of what I've learned with my parents, and now they're both basically like 99% vegan as well. So I'm thankful to have been able to kind of, pass that along to them. And now, I'm trying to do the same for as many other people as I can and, spread that knowledge and that awareness and help people to transform their lives, but at the same time, help protect the environment, help to save animals' lives. It's a win-win, however you want to look at it. So that's why, something I'm really passionate about doing.
One thing I'm wondering is because I think there's a lot of vegetarians probably being scared a little bit to make this full switch to vegan, especially when it comes to athletic performance. Would you say it basically improved your performance, right? But you might also have had those doubts in the beginning about, I don't know, maybe protein or other nutrients. What were your main obstacles that you had when it comes to the turning to a vegan diet, or how did you get rid of this thought that you cannot get enough protein, for instance, on a vegan diet?
That's a good question. And protein definitely was one of the main, areas that I had concern about, because obviously I was getting some protein from animal sources before I made the transition to veganism. And it was just a matter of basically educating myself and learning about what other options are out there, what foods contain protein, of plant origin rather than animal origin, and figuring out how I could incorporate those into my daily diet and routine in such a way that, I would still find it sustainable and be able to eat things that I enjoy and, that I feel good eating, but still achieve the protein intake that I need and all the other nutrition as well to help further my physique and my athletic goals. And so it was, just doing a little bit of research and also looking up, different websites and blogs online. Like back at the time, I'll put in a little plug for Vegan Muscle and Fitness, which is a team that I'm now proud to be a part of. But back before I went vegan, I was looking at their website, and it's basically a husband and wife team. They're based in Richmond, Virginia in the US. And so that's not far from where I grew up, actually. And they have sort of a website. They post, lots of vegan recipes and fitness tips and stuff like that. They also do online coaching as well, which I now do as part of their team. And I was looking at them, and it's Derek Treesize, who's a WNBF pro physique athlete, and he's been vegan for like 7 years or something like that. And then myself and another trainer by the name of Max, who lives in the UK actually, or the EU rather. And the three of us kind of work together doing online coaching and things of that nature. But back before I went vegan, I was looking at the two of them. And I was like, wow, these guys are jacked. They're fit, they're muscular, they have what I want, and they're doing it without animal products. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. And 4 years later, I'm proud to say I've stuck with it, and I couldn't be happier as a result.
Okay, cool. So they were basically your first, let's say, examples of fit vegans and how you can build muscle as a vegan. I also saw that later you joined also, you're a member of PlantBuilt, which is, as I understood, it's a community of vegan bodybuilders and athletes worldwide that kind of want to show how you can perform on a vegan diet and that you can be at the peak of your performance, right? When did you learn about them and become a member?
Yeah, so I actually became a member of Team PlantBuilt kind of through my connection with Vegan Muscle and Fitness, because Derek and his wife Marcella, who were the founders of that team, are also members of Team PlantBuilt as well. And so they kind of put me in touch with Danny Taylor and Giacomo Marchesi, who are the founders of Team PlantBuilt, and they sort of put in the word for me. And so I was invited to become a member of the team. And that was back about 2 years ago now. It was sort of early 2017, and that was before I had actually started competing in Physique. But it was something I'd been thinking about doing for a long time, and so I thought, this is a golden opportunity. If I'm going to start competing, there's no better time than now. I can really, step on stage with the team of vegan athletes and make a really strong kind of statement and impression, and help spread the vegan message in a bigger way than I would be able to just on my own. And so that kind of gave me that spark and catalyst to start competing. And so that the PlantBuilt meetup that we did was in June of 2017, so not quite 2 years ago now, but it was a huge event. It was, I think about 36 or so different vegan athletes from all over the world. So people from the US, which is where I was living at the time, people from Europe, from Australia, from Asia. It was a, really truly international group of people. They're all coming together basically just to do exactly what you said, which is to show that, you can be strong and fit and healthy and at the top of your game athletically, and do so on a plant-based diet. And I think we were pretty successful in demonstrating that, because the event that we were competing at that year was the Naturally Fit Super Show in Austin, Texas. And it's a huge event. There were like over 1,000 competitors there competing across all different sports. So there was bodybuilding, there was men's physique, which is what I did. And then there's also powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, kettlebell sport, CrossFit, things of that nature. So a very diverse group. And we had athletes competing in all of those different categories. And at the end of the day, we had come away with, I want to say something like 29, 30 different medals and trophies. And a good 24 or so were first place finishes, including one that I brought home myself. So I was very proud to be a part of that. And we got some really nice media coverage and attention as well as a result. And so I felt like that was a really positive thing for veganism, and looking forward to doing it again in the future for sure.
Is this like a regular ongoing thing that the members from PlantBuilt then meet, I don't know, once a year, and then show at different competitions that, as a vegan you can?
Normally they meet every 2 years. So this year, actually, there would be, normally there would be scheduled to be a meetup. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year or not, because the event that we competed at last time, which was the Naturally Fit Super Show that I mentioned, unfortunately, that's not happening this year. And so we'll have to find another sort of venue to meet at, where all the athletes from different sports can still participate. And so I'm sure that's going to happen at some point in the future. I'm not sure exactly when, unfortunately, but whenever it does, I will be there for sure.
I also saw that apart from that, you also participated on your own in different competitions and also won them, right?
I did another competition last year as well, and that was just sort of a local event here in Melbourne, Australia, which is where I live now. And that was with the ICN, so I Compete Natural Federation here in Victoria. And that was probably a smaller event. It was just a bodybuilding show, but there were still a couple hundred different competitors there. And I was competing in men's physique category again, and in 2 different divisions. So I brought home a first place finish in one category, and I made the top 3 in the other. So pretty happy with that outcome. But again, I'm always looking to improve and to come back stronger the next time I step on stage.
So you have plans for the future to go on stage again, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So whenever I compete again, it will probably be at the next PlantBuilt meetup, which is a little bit up in the air as to when that's actually going to occur. But right now I'm taking a little bit of time off from actively competing, but I'm still working on kind of off-season training. So trying to improve my physique and, bring up weak points and do everything I can to make sure that the next time I do step on stage, I'm going to be more competitive than I was last time around. What
I would also be interested is just to hear, have you always done fitness as a sport, or when did you basically start? And when did you make that switch of, okay, I really want to go professional in this, I want to be coaching, I want to compete? How did that whole journey look like?
Sure, that's a great question. So my fitness journey began when I was about 15 years old, and it was just as simple as, I was just kind of a skinny, scrawny kid growing up. I was never, that big or strong or muscular, and I wanted to do something about that. And so I just started, basically working out at home, lifting weights, out in my parents' shed. We had a weight bench at the time, and I was just doing, like bench press and curls, like mirror muscles. Basically, I was just doing whatever I knew how to do, which was not that much at the time. But it was something that I really developed a passion for, and I found quite rewarding, especially, once you start seeing changes in your body, you see that progress being made and the results are coming in. It becomes almost like an addiction, but a positive one, where then, it kind of spirals up, where you keep fueling that passion and trying to challenge yourself and see what you can really achieve physically. And so that's something I've been doing, not like 100% consistently ever since then, but it has definitely been a part of my life. And then for the past 4 years since I've been vegan, I felt, a lot more kind of focused and inspired to use fitness as a platform to really promote and spread that message and dispel a lot of the myths and, stereotypes that exist that, vegans are kind of these scrawny, pale weaklings who can just barely, muster the strength to get out of bed in the morning. And I find, the best way to sort of open up people's mindset a little bit is to get out there and just be a walking kind of billboard and endorsement for that lifestyle, and show that you actually can, like I was saying earlier, you can be big and strong and fit and muscular and do anything that you might want to do physically, and you can do that without harming animals and, consuming animal products. And so that's what I've been trying to do.
Maybe also a good transition for people who are wondering, okay, I might also want to go down that path as a vegan, but I don't really know where to start. So I would be interested in hearing about your routines, rituals, your diet a little bit. For instance, what are your main protein sources that you consume on a regular basis?
For sure. That's always, the million-dollar question everybody wants to know. Where do you get your protein? As you know, I'm sure it's not that difficult to do on a plant-based diet. It's just a matter of, having that knowledge in place. And then once you build a routine around that, it becomes just as simple and straightforward as any other way of eating. But basically what I like to advocate, and also what I practice myself, is what's called a whole food plant-based diet. So I try to stick to whole plant foods as much as possible for the majority of my food, my calorie intake, and limit processed foods as much as possible, and obviously avoiding animal products altogether, of course. And so what that means is, protein sources are going to be coming primarily from things like, legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, lentils, things of that nature. Sometimes soy products like tofu, tempeh, soy milk, etc. can be great sources. I do use plant-based protein powder, but it's in a very limited amount. So usually like 1 serving per day, and that would just be in a shake or a smoothie after I finish training that day. And that's really more of a convenience item than a necessity. So currently in my off-season training, I'm hitting about 185 grams of protein per day. Maybe 30 of those comes from protein powder, and the rest is just from whole plant foods. And one thing I think is really important to drive home, and people might not understand this, is when you're making the transition to a vegan diet, as long as you eat sufficient calories from whole food sources, it's really hard to not get enough protein, because all foods contain protein in their naturally occurring form. And so if you're eating enough calories just to fuel your body and to be healthy, you're going to be getting protein from all of those different foods and all those sources. Now, when you have specific goals as far as like athletic performance, body composition, things of that nature, obviously it can be beneficial to have a little bit more protein coming in. And that's where, it takes a little bit of planning and just knowing how to set up your diet in order to achieve that goal. But again, once you know how to do that, it becomes pretty straightforward.
So do you have some, regular go-to meals? Maybe something you eat for breakfast every day, or let's say some meal prep that on Sunday you sit down and you prep the food for the next coming days?
For sure. Yeah. So I like to keep it really simple with my cooking as much as possible, because I consume quite high calories. I'm on about 4,400 calories a day at the moment. And so if I didn't, do batch cooking and meal prep and things like that to streamline the process, I'd be spending a lot of time in the kitchen, which, I don't mind doing, but it's time I would probably, be more benefit spending elsewhere. And so I keep it pretty simple. Breakfast is going to be usually some form of like oats with soy milk and then fruit as a topping. So in the winter months when it's cooler outside, I'll probably have that warm as kind of like a porridge type of bowl, maybe put some berries on top, that sort of thing. Lately, because it's summer here in Melbourne, I've just been having cold cereal, so like a muesli type of combination with, oats and then raisins, dried fruit, dates, nuts, things of that nature. Add in a little bit of soy milk as well, which increases the protein content. And that 99 times out of 100, that's going to be my breakfast that I start the day with. And then other times throughout the day, I'll have certain staples that I go to as well. But it's always simple stuff, usually a combination of some form of a legume. So like chickpeas, lentils, black beans, things like that. And then some form of whole grain. So that could be brown rice, could be quinoa, could be, whole grain pasta, something like that. And then I'll try to add in, just as much fruits and vegetables throughout the day as possible, just for the micronutrient density as well.
So yeah, that's the thing with the vegan diet. You can actually like combine so many different things, and then it never gets boring. On the opposite, actually super tasty. Regarding a little bit your workout routine, how does that look like? Do you train daily, or do you follow like a certain workout routine? You said you're in the off season now, right? Like, how does the off season compare to your on season, for instance?
Sure. So yeah, right now I am in the off season. So what that means basically is I have the goal of, gaining muscle and improving my physique. And so what that means is the training is primarily, almost exclusively focused on weight training. So, resistance training, weight bearing exercise of various forms. And then making sure I stay in a calorie surplus. So I have enough actual energy coming in that I'm able to put on weight. And versus if I'm in the contest prep, I guess is what you would call it. If I'm dieting down for a show, then the focus shifts from building muscle to losing body fat and just leaning out and getting that definition, that conditioning that you need to be competitive on stage. And so then at that time, I would add in more aerobic exercise, more cardio, usually in the form of high intensity interval training. And that's just to help increase calorie expenditure, basically, so that I can still keep my calorie intake fairly high, but lose weight and lose body fat at the same time by creating that calorie deficit. So training doesn't change that much. It's just basically off season I don't do as much cardio, contest prep I would do more, and then I would adjust my calorie intake accordingly. So calorie surplus, eating a little bit more than I'm burning to put on weight in off season, versus calorie deficit, eating a little bit less than I'm burning in contest prep, in order to, you know, shed body fat, but doing so gradually so as to preserve muscle mass at the same time. As far as the resistance training that I do, I change up the routine from time to time, but usually it's 5 to 6 days per week that I'm doing weightlifting, and I follow a split routine, so I'll do different body parts on different days. For example, I might do, you know, a leg workout one day, I might do a push day, which would be chest, shoulders, and triceps on another day, and then a pull workout, you know, back and biceps on the third day. So something along those lines usually works pretty well for me, and that allows me to hit each muscle group, you know, maybe once, twice per week, depending on how often I'm doing it. And still have enough recovery time in between sessions that I can, you know, stay healthy and continue to progress.
You just mentioned your recovery time. I would actually be interested in how do you spend your recovery time? Do you perform something, I don't know, maybe like stretching, yoga? Do you do massages, or you go to the sauna? How do you help to improve your recovery time? How do you spend it?
Yep, that's a great question, because recovery is super important. It makes all the difference in the world when it comes to, especially like bodybuilding style training and building muscle. You can do all the working out that you want to in the gym. If you don't have adequate recovery in place, you're not going to get the results that you want, because the recovery time is actually when the body synthesizes new muscle protein. It's when you gain muscle, you get stronger, you progress towards your goals. And so making that a priority is something I really emphasize with all my clients, and of course in my own lifestyle as well. And I do a number of things to make sure that my recovery is on point. Stretching, like you said, is a big part of it. So I try to do kind of a stretching routine just about every day, especially on days when I'm doing a heavy workout, something like that. I'll do usually kind of a light stretching warm up beforehand, just to you know, make sure the body's feeling good, take the joints through a range of motion and that sort of thing. And then oftentimes post-workout, I'll do some more kind of static stretching, and that's just to help relax a little bit, you know, ease tension in the muscles and restore the joints back to their normal length-tension relationships. And that's something I found has really helped my recovery over the years. I used to have a lot of issues with like chronic lower back pain and stuff like that, and it prevented me from doing a lot of the heavy squatting and deadlifting and really beneficial exercises that I wanted to incorporate into my training. And when I've actually started stretching regularly, making that a part of my daily routine and really making it a priority, something that I don't miss, I found that back pain is largely cleared up. It doesn't bother me nearly as much anymore, and my training has been able to really go up to the next level as a result, because I'm able to, you know, incorporate those really fundamental compound lifts that I want to do into my workouts. So that's something I definitely would recommend doing to anyone starting out. Don't neglect the stretching. It's not as glamorous as, you know, getting into the gym and throwing heavy weights around, but you want your body to last a long time. What I always tell people is, if you're eating whole food, plant-based, you're going to live till 120, and you don't want to blow out all your joints before you turn 40. So you want to really take the long view, make that a priority, and yeah, I think your body will thank you for it in the long run. So yeah, stretching is definitely super important. That's something I would recommend to anyone who's starting out, or if they're already exercising regularly and not incorporating it into your routine. I would say it's worth doing for sure. Another one that I try to do on a regular basis, you know, maybe once per week, something like that, is we do go to yoga classes here at a local gym as well. And that's something that I find really enjoyable, just because it's a very different sort of style of training than what I normally do, which is, you know, lifting heavy weights in the gym. But it helps to just kind of get in tune with your body and how you're feeling. And it also helps improve, you know, stability and core strength and flexibility, things like that as well. And develop sort of that mind-body connection, which I think is really important. So stretching, and then yoga, which is sort of a continuation of that. Both really important variables for recovery. Nutrition obviously is huge, so that probably, you know, maybe the single most important factor, right up there with, you know, getting enough sleep and getting enough water to drink. Basically, make sure that you're eating appropriately for your goal. So again, you can do all the training that you want in the gym. If your diet is not aligned with that, you're not going to get the results that you want, and certainly not in the most efficient fashion. So if you want to lose weight, you have to eat a little bit less than what you're expending in a day. If you want to gain weight, you have to eat a little bit more. And then beyond that, you know, making sure that you have sufficient protein coming in to build and maintain muscle mass obviously is important. Usually what I recommend to clients is about 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, which is not that difficult to do if you're eating a reasonable calorie intake. And then for micronutrient density, that's where the whole food side of things comes in. So eating, you know, lots of fresh produce, beans and greens and berries are kind of the 3 staples that I really like to emphasize. with anyone that I'm, talking to about nutrition. And just trying to, get the foundation of your diet, the bulk of your calories coming from whole plant foods. And that's going to help not only in the short term with your fitness goals, but also optimizing your long-term health as well. So you'll be getting lots of vitamins, minerals, fiber, antioxidants, and phytonutrients, and things that are really beneficial for the body that aren't as simple as just, carbs, fats, and protein, which is what people oftentimes focus on for fitness in particular. So yeah, nutrition super important when it comes to recovery. And then the other one I touched on there briefly was just getting adequate sleep as well. And that's something I think a lot of people nowadays are kind of missing out on. And it's almost like this sort of macho thing where people like to brag about, oh yeah, I just sleep 6 hours a night and I'm fine, and ripping and running and all that. And you can do that for a little while. You can maybe do it for a long time, but eventually it is going to catch up to you. And it makes a huge difference in your performance, your recovery, your cognitive ability even, and just your long-term health as well. So sleep is something that you really can't get around. And probably 7 to 9 hours per night, somewhere in there is the optimal range for most people. I try to get around 8 hours usually, and that's where I feel good. And it's not something that I ever want to shortchange, even if things get busy and I've got a lot going on. I try to really carve out and defend that time for sleep, because I know it's going to make a huge difference in everything that I want to accomplish in the gym, and also just long-term health as well. Proper nutrition, proper sleep, stretching, yoga, some form of mindfulness practice as well. So like meditation, that sort of thing. You don't have to be a yogi and go sit under a tree for 10 years, but you can just, sit quietly for 10 minutes before you go to bed in the evening, maybe when you get up in the morning, something like that. Again, trying to get in tune with your mind and body. And I think just making things like that a part of your daily routine are going to be really beneficial for most people.
Now that you just mentioned as a last point also the mind and maybe the meditation aspect, one thing I'm really curious about to hear is what you generally think about how important is mindset when it comes to achieving your fitness goals, let's say, or generally your goals. Do you need goals? Do you need a big vision? How much can the mindset affect what you want to achieve?
For sure. Yeah, I think it makes a huge difference. It can oftentimes, make the difference between success and failure is kind of where you're at in your mental state. And like you said, having a goal can be important. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds or something like that, but knowing why it is that you're doing what you're doing. So for me, it's not necessarily that I want to lose weight or gain weight, although I am working on gaining muscle at the moment. But it's like, I want the world to go vegan. I want to be a walking, talking advertisement for this lifestyle. And I want people to look at me and think, wow, what is that guy doing? I want to be like that, and help to inspire as many people as possible and change as many minds as possible. And by doing that, be a part of this change and this sort of revolution that's taking place all over the world. And so that, for me, is a really powerful motivator and sort of the why that gets me up in the morning, gets me into the gym, gets me under that heavy barbell when maybe I don't feel like lifting it. I'm going to go in there and do it anyway, because it's not about me. It's about, the animals, it's about the environment, and it's about saving the lives of a lot of people all over the world who are going to needlessly die of chronic disease that they could very easily avoid with proper nutrition. And so that, having that motivation, it makes it really easy for me to stay consistent with my training. And it's not something that I ever even worry about, am I going to go to the gym or not? I just go in there and do it. And it's kind of simple for me. Now, that might not be what inspires everyone, but for me, that's what it takes. And I think having that idea and that notion of, why you're doing what you're doing, and having sort of a long-term perspective as well, can be really important in just being able to sustain something and stay consistent and, make it a part of your lifestyle in the long term.
I also think so that basically if you have a bigger vision that you work for, and being vegan is one of these things, right? Like you have the feeling you're connected to something bigger, makes it easier in many areas of your life actually. What do you think are the big trends that we're going to see in the vegan community, in the vegan movement in the coming years?
Well, I think the vegan movement has just been growing kind of exponentially over the past several years. Even in just the last 4 years since I've become vegan, I've seen so many more people, asking questions about it, talking about it, posting on social media, even mainstream, like news and media outlets talking about it. And I think that's just going to continue, and continue to snowball growing forward over time as more and more people learn about the health benefits, the environmental side of things, and of course, the Holocaust that's basically going on daily in terms of animal agriculture. And people learn that they don't have to be a part of that and contribute to that in order to thrive and be healthy, and that in fact they're better off without those foods and those products in their diet and in their lifestyle. I think, knowledge is power, and once you know better, you can do better. And so I'm trying to get that knowledge out there to as many people as possible, and using tools that we have nowadays like the internet and social media, YouTube, like what you guys are doing, for example, I think is a really powerful kind of grassroots way of doing that, where you can reach a lot more people now than you could, say, during other civil rights movements in the past and things of that nature, where, it took a lot longer for information to reach people. Nowadays, it's just, the click of a button, a few keystrokes away on the internet, and so people are learning and they're changing their behavior based on that information. And I think that's just only going to continue to happen at a faster pace as we go forward.
If people are considering becoming vegan athletes, what would be like 1, 2, 3 major resources, let's say books or movies, that you think everybody should watch, and then basically it gives them the answers that they're looking for, it gives them the knowledge that they are looking for? For
sure, yeah. I mean, there's so many great plant-based documentaries out there, and there's more and more being made all the time, which I think is fantastic. But just simple ones that are fairly well known. They're available for free nowadays, like on Netflix or YouTube and places like that. Forks Over Knives is a really good one to start with, to get a sense of kind of the health benefits of whole food plant-based nutrition and how that can be really life-changing. Cowspiracy is another one that's on Netflix, which a lot of people have access to nowadays, and it's on other sources as well. That covers the environmental aspect of why adopting a vegan lifestyle is better for the planet, the environment in the long term. And then the third pillar of sort of the argument for a vegan lifestyle is animal agriculture and animal welfare, that sort of thing. And there's lots of documentaries out there on that topic as well. Earthlings is one that's been out for a long time on YouTube. It's freely available. It's very intense. I've watched it. It's not for the faint of heart, so that's something I would watch at your own discretion. But if you want a powerful argument as to why you should stop eating animal products, that's a good one. Dominion is another one which just came out last year, similar to Earthlings, I believe, but it's sort of more up to date with modern technology and like drone footage and stuff like that. And I haven't seen that one yet, but I've heard that it is equally groundbreaking in that area, and so that would be another one I'd recommend to anyone interested in sort of the animal welfare side of things. And there's lots and lots of other ones out there as well. That's just a few really good kind of plant-based documentaries off the top of my head. And books and other resources as well. One of my favorite books that I recommend to everyone is How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. That's a New York Times bestseller, and it's just a really kind of comprehensive resource as to the health benefits of whole food plant-based nutrition, and specifically for each of like the top 15 leading causes of death, at least in the US. He lays out exactly how whole food plant-based nutrition can help prevent and reverse them. And so that's something that can actually be really practical for people, and it has day-to-day advice on what you can do and incorporate into your diet in order to optimize your long-term health. So that's a really good one I like to recommend. And his website as well, nutritionfacts.org, is a phenomenal resource. Tons of free videos on there on basically any health or nutrition topic you can think of. He probably has a video or 5 on there. I think there's over 2,000 videos on the site now. It's all free. There's no ads or corporate sponsorships or anything like that. And Dr. Greger is really, he's just a superhero of the whole food plant-based nutrition movement. And I can't say enough good things about him, but I'll leave it there. That would be definitely my top recommendation for anyone who wants to learn more about the health side of things.
Yeah, I totally agree. I read the same book, watched the same documentaries. And also if you read that book, you're like, okay, the answers are all there. Staying with nutrition, I also saw that you did a certificate in plant-based nutrition at the Colin Institute. I'm not sure, Colin Campbell Institute. I'm not sure if I got the whole name right. What made you decide on doing that? And what did you learn, or what was your main takeaways after having completed that certificate?
Yeah, so that certificate that I did was in plant-based nutrition, and that's from the T.Colin Campbell Institute for Nutrition Studies, and also in partnership with Cornell University as well. And basically the reason I did that was just to help sort of further solidify my knowledge of whole food plant-based nutrition, and as a coach and someone who helps people transitioning to a plant-based diet and things like that. I find that the more information that I can equip myself with, obviously the better I'll be able to help people, and also the better I'll be able to put that information into practice in my own life as well. So I found that was a really great and informative resource, and I'm glad that I did it. I learned a lot for sure, and a lot of the top experts in plant-based nutrition are part of the course. So Dr. T.Colin Campbell, of course, at Cornell University, and then Dr. Greger, who we were just talking about, is also in there. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who's done some really groundbreaking research in the area of heart disease specifically, and lots of other plant-based doctors and nutrition experts as well. And so that's something I would really recommend to anyone who wants to kind of get hands-on with the information and educate themselves. That it's a great resource for sure. It is a little bit pricey. Obviously, you have to pay to enroll in the course, but it kind of puts all the information together in one place in a really easy and digestible fashion. So someone who wants to maybe put themselves in a position where they can then pay that information forward and help educate others, I think that's a really good kind of credential feather to have in your cap to that end. And also it's just, it's really groundbreaking information and knowledge to have for sure.
When it comes to your coaching clients that you have, usually, I assume they're not all on a plant-based diet, right?
Yeah, so most of the clients that I work with are either vegan or vegetarian. I do have some who are sort of interested in transitioning to a plant-based diet, and that's actually a process I'm helping them with. So some people come to me and they say, I'm not vegan or vegetarian, but I would like to move in that direction, or at least incorporate, more whole plant foods in my diet, because they already, have the knowledge that that's going to help improve their health. And so then I can take the role of just kind of, educating them and guiding them a little bit through that process, and, letting them know, what steps to take to make sure that, they're getting enough calories in, that they're getting the proper nutrition that they need, and that they're going to really feel their best and thrive on a plant-based diet. And so that's something that I really enjoy doing, and I am very passionate about as well, because that information, once you have it, it can be really life-changing in a lot of ways. And so that's something that I feel very privileged now to be in the position where I can connect with like-minded individuals all over the world, like yourself, and the clients that I work with online as well, and help to, sort of disseminate that information, because I feel like, the more people that we can sort of get on board and bring over to the plant-based team, the faster that movement is going to continue to grow. And that's, exactly what I want to have happen.
If someone is thinking about starting out, going vegan, going on a vegan diet as an athlete, what would be your 2 or 3 major recommendations you would give them to make the transition, to make the switch?
Yep, that's a great question. So probably the number 1 recommendation that I would make to anyone who is adopting a plant-based diet or moving in that direction, first of all, just get out there and educate yourself. There is tons of information freely available online, so you certainly don't have to do, a paid course or something like that through eCornell, which I did. There's lots of great YouTube channels out there like what you guys are doing, and others about very specific topics, whether it's training, fitness, nutrition, everything in between. So great resources available for free on the internet nowadays. So there's no reason not to have that information, because knowledge is power. Once you know better, you can put that information into practice. And so I'd say, get out there, try to really, put in some time, do the research, and you will be much better off as a result. But the number 1 thing I would say probably beyond that is just make sure you're getting enough calories in, because that's something I see quite often. People adopt a vegan diet and say, oh, I didn't feel good, I didn't have enough energy, I felt weak, I felt tired, blah, 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 blah. Usually what that comes down to almost every single time is just simply not eating enough food. And the reason for that is very simple. It's just because if you're eating whole plant foods, the energy density for the amount of food that you're eating is usually going to be a little bit less than if you're eating processed foods and animal products. And that's actually a good thing, because it means you can eat more, you feel satisfied, you don't have to restrict your portion sizes and things like that. You can very easily move towards an ideal body weight. Oftentimes when people go plant-based, they start losing weight effortlessly when they hadn't been able to do it before. And those are all great things, but it just means, especially if you have an active lifestyle, if you're burning a lot of calories training and things like that, you want to make sure you're getting those calories and that energy in to really nourish and fuel your body. And so that might mean just, keeping a food journal, using an app like Chronometer or MyFitnessPal to track your intake, get a sense of how many calories you're eating. And then you can look at the scale as well. Are you gaining weight? Are you losing weight? Is it staying the same? Based on that, you get a sense of, are you eating enough calories for your activity level? And if not, if the scale is going down, if you feel tired and weak and no energy, etc., just eat a little bit more. It's not that hard to do, but eat calorie dense foods. So things like, starches, whole grains, nuts and seeds, some dried fruit, for example, really calorie dense foods. And make sure you're getting enough energy in. Beyond that, again, if you're eating whole plant foods, it's hard not to get enough protein and most of the other essential nutrients. But I would say make sure you're supplementing with vitamin B12. And unless you're out in the sun a lot in like a sort of a tropical or near the equator type of location, probably want to supplement with vitamin D as well. Other than that, you can get everything you need pretty much from just whole food plant-based nutrition.
So you said that vitamin B12 kind of essential. Vitamin D, if you live in a cold country, that's great, like Germany, for instance, where I'm from. Any other supplements that you would recommend, or you think you can just cover everything from the whole food diet?
Yeah, so just simply to be healthy and live a long time and have a high quality of life, that's basically everything that you need, assuming that you are eating a wide variety of whole plant foods, lots of dark green leafy vegetables and berries and legumes, whole grains, things of that nature. You're going to be getting way more nutrition for the amount of calories that you consume than if you were eating processed refined flours and sugars and oils and animal products and things like that. They tend to be more what you would think of as empty calories, where you're getting lots of energy and not the actual micronutrients to go along with it. So yeah, I would just recommend, for a long-term health perspective, vitamin D, vitamin B12, and making sure you're getting in adequate calories, obviously. But then when it comes to, sports performance and, if you have like an athletic bodybuilding goal, things like that, sometimes it can be beneficial to have certain supplements in place. It's not a necessity by any means. You can absolutely build muscle and get stronger and be fit and healthy and everything that you want to do without using supplements. But sometimes they come in handy just as a convenience item. They can give you a little extra boost that you might not get otherwise. And so to that end, using a plant-based protein powder post-workout is usually when I do it. It can sometimes be beneficial. I don't usually mess around with like pre-workout supplements or anything like that, just because I find most of them are fairly expensive and not really worth the cost. And you want to be careful with what you're putting into your body, obviously, as well. The only other supplement I use sometimes would just be creatine monohydrate, and that's just simply because it's one of the most widely studied and sort of analyzed supplements out there, and it has been shown fairly conclusively to be safe and effective for what it does. And that's just simply to increase sort of your energy or your strength output in the short term, lifting weights in the gym. It can give you a little bit of an extra edge, maybe 5 or 10%, probably less than that. It's the difference between doing like 10 reps on your bench press and 11, something like that. So that's about it. As far as supplements, I take the whole food plant-based approach pretty seriously. So probably of the calories that I consume, 90% plus are going to be whole plant foods. And then that supplement is going to be that extra, 5 or 10%, something like that.
What are your plans for the coming years? What you want to achieve personally, on a personal level, on a fitness level, and just in general when it comes to the vegan movement?
Going forward, my goal is basically, continue to build my online business. I feel like that's really the way of the future as far as, fitness and coaching people, especially, but also, the plant-based message and the sort of that side of things is the niche that I specialize in, of course. And as I see more and more people around the world are adopting a vegan diet and going plant-based, I really want to be a part of that and helping to spread that information and help ease people through that transition so that they feel happy and healthy in the process and, can have the best possible experience along the way. And so that's something I'm really passionate about continuing to do. And then just personally and as an athlete, I want to continue obviously training and continuing to improve my physique so that, again, I can be a better role model and kind of ambassador for the vegan lifestyle. And when I do step on stage and then I can place well, I can sort of make a statement for the vegan cause that way as well and show people that, hey, you actually, can be healthy and you can be fit and you can look good and you can do anything that you want to do. You don't have to cause suffering and you don't have to, put these substances into your body that are actually going to be harming your long-term health. So it's really, that's something I'm incredibly passionate about doing as well, and probably something I'll keep doing until the day I die.
Yeah, you're definitely a living example of exactly that. How can people learn more about you? Let's say somebody hears, okay, that sounds all like really valuable content to me. I want to get his coaching, or I want to learn more about what he's doing. Where can people find you, hear more about what you do, your coaching, and so on?
For sure. So anyone who's interested in coaching, I would just encourage them to check out my website, and that's just forestnash.com.au. And that has all my contact information on there and some information about the services that I offer as well. And I give you a link. Maybe you can put that down below the video. And then on social media, I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. And so Facebook is just simply Forest Nash for my personal page, my Instagram as well. And then I have a Facebook page for my business, which is Forest Nash Fitness. So I get people contacting me through those channels all the time as well. I'm always happy to answer questions. And if people are interested in working together and helping improve their fitness and adopt a more plant-based lifestyle, or just simply optimize their diet and their health if they're already eating a vegan diet, I'm happy to do that as well.
Any last things you want to say before we wrap up the interview? Any, I don't know, maybe missing advice or just something you want to share with the viewers?
I think we've done a pretty good job of covering it and a great job with the questions there. I'm happy to be here and help spread the knowledge and information that I've accumulated over the years. But yeah, if there's anybody out there who's listening in and maybe has a question or needs a little bit further guidance or information, something that we didn't talk about today, feel free to contact me through any of those means that I just mentioned. I'm always happy to hear from people and help out any way I can, especially when it comes to adopting whole food plant-based diet and also trying to optimize your fitness and health at the same time.
Then Forrest, thanks so much for being on the show, for sharing all your knowledge and your story. And
for sure.
Yeah. Hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me on. It was a blast.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.